Jesse James is not sleeping. Forget the Hollywood scenes, no smoky saloon, no midnight train robbery, no heroic profile against a sunset. The real Jesse is curled up in a barn somewhere in Missouri, or maybe Kentucky, eyes wide open on a mattress made of straw older than he is, doing his best to scratch a dozen places without making a sound. His fingernails are packed with dirt. His shirt is sticky with sweat, blood, and things you don't want to think about. It's itching, it's tight, and the whole place smells like wet animal, mildew, and that sharp copper note you only get from a wound that refuses to heal. Jesse's bandage is crusted over and starting to leak again, and the air around him is thick with the scent of decay. Somewhere in the shadows, his revolver glints, always close enough to grab, just in case the next noise isn't a rat but boots sinking into the mud, or a barn door groaning open. That could mean the law, a bounty hunter, or the old favorite, an ex-friend who wants the reward money. Here's the part the movies skip. The nights when being Jesse James meant sweating through torn clothes, gnawing hunger, and jumping at every creek. The so-called Robin Hood of the West isn't out there sharing coins or basking in outlaw glory. He's filthy, he's hungry, and he spends the entire night wondering if this barn is the one where it all ends. Adventure, brotherhood, that's the legend. Jesse's reality is pain, paranoia, and a body that heals poorly, if at all. Let's pull back for a second. Jesse James, legendary outlaw, right? Raised in Missouri on stories about Southern honor and family loyalty. He didn't fight the Civil War as a regular soldier. He was a teenage guerrilla, bushwhacking, torching houses, surviving violence. That's a lot less glamorous when you're close enough to smell the smoke. Union troops tortured his stepfather and whipped Jesse himself. He learned young that you could lose your home in a night, and that trusting anyone was a risk. After the war, Jesse's fame didn't come from robbing more banks than anyone else. It came from newspapers and Southern sympathizers who decided he'd make a handy symbol. The actual man, though, spent most of his life on the run. He was shot at least twice and never really recovered. During the war, a bullet tore through his chest and stayed there. It festered for months. Walking was a struggle. Even years later, that wound never fully closed. A hard cough could bring on fever or worse. So, you get Jesse, hunted all over Missouri and beyond. The Pinkertons are after him. Old friends turn into enemies. The support network that once sheltered him, sympathetic farmhouses, Confederate neighbors, is shrinking fast. After the Northfield disaster, after the Pinkerton bomb that killed his little brother and maimed his mother, most people don't want Jesse James sleeping in their barn. Hiding gets harder every night. Barns and outbuildings offer no safety, just more straw to sweat through, more shadows to fear, and more people eager to trade an outlaw for a payday. And that's why Jesse can't ever really let himself sleep. The straw pokes straight through his ripped pants, and it's crawling with things, lice, fleas, whatever else lived out here before he did. If you're lucky, you get the straw. If not, you end up on cold, dew-soaked ground, reeking of manure. His wounds pulse and throb every time he shifts. Forget about cleaning them out here. He'll blot the seep with whatever rag he can find. Maybe there's a flask of whiskey nearby, but antiseptics, not a chance. All this on top of gnawing hunger. Outlaw food is not the Hollywood campfire feast. It's hard bread, picked over leftovers, whatever a nervous alley can spare. Every meal is a gamble. Is this person feeding you or sizing you up for the reward? It's not just the law you have to worry about. It's the people who know exactly how desperate and how wounded you are. So try resting with all that on your mind. The revolver by his side isn't some cool accessory. It's life insurance, but also a reminder that the real danger might be whoever's in the next stall, or even sharing your bread. Every sound sets Jesse's nerves on edge. A scurry in the hay could be a rat, or it could be boots. Every time he lets his eyes close is a fresh risk. Wake up and you might find someone else holding your gun. Hollywood can't resist cleaning this up. Fresh shirts, loyal friends, heroic sleep. But here's the promise. We're dragging that legend into the dirt, right down into the straw where it belongs, and showing you what outlaw nights actually looked like. Jesse James, aching, filthy, terrified, always one noise away from disaster. This was never the story of a hero. It's the story of the price paid just to make it through a single night. Body broken, trust vanished, enemies everywhere. Tonight, Jesse isn't the man from the dime novels. He's not the smiling daredevil in the hat. He's hunted, wounded, sleepless, curled in a barn, hoping the lice bite less than the bullet still lodged in his chest, hoping the next creak in the rafters isn't his last. As he shifts, trying to find a patch of straw that doesn't dig into his ribs, the reality of outlaw survival sets in. Filth, fear, and endless hours until sunrise. And if that sounds rough, it's just the starting point. Jesse's time on the run wasn't one desperate night. It was an endless loop of aching, filthy, paranoid nights. Each escape forced him deeper into the Missouri backwoods, farther from anything resembling comfort or trust. Wounds barely started to heal before they split open again, whether from another frantic ride, a scramble through brush, or just rolling over and catching a scar on a hidden nail. There's nothing cinematic about clothes that never dry, socks stiff with old blood, or the way every new hiding place is colder, wetter, and itchier than the last. There's no neat ledger of every barn or shack Jesse slept in, no diary of agony, no precise bug census. What we do know, for years, while the Pinkertons hunted him and after every failed robbery, Jesse and his shrinking circle bounced from shelter to shelter. At first, a few old Confederate friends might risk jail to hide him. But after Northfield, after the Pinkerton bomb, those safe houses dried up. Suddenly, every friend could be a Judas, every knock a possible betrayal, and every bed more likely to be a pile of moldy straw than a real mattress. That's when things got truly miserable. Jesse's nights shrank to animal spaces, barns packed with must, abandoned smokehouses, root cellars reeking of mildew and mouse droppings. Sometimes he had Frank nearby, both brothers pretending to sleep, both really just listening for the scrape of boots or the click of a cocked hammer. But plenty of nights, Jesse was alone, his wounds stiff, sweat chilling on his dirt-caked skin, the straw alive with the chorus of lice. The king of outlaws, reduced to swatting fleas and whispering curses at mice bold enough to chew on his boots. And let's not sugarcoat the outlaw meal plan. The movies will never show Jesse gnawing on stale bread filched from a chicken coop, or cold salt pork that tastes like it's been on the shelf since Appomattox. Real food was rare, maybe half-rotten apples and cold beans one night, or nothing at all except the twist of hunger in his belly. Living on adrenaline sounds tough, but adrenaline doesn't help a bullet wound, and it's useless for dysentery. Now, if you're watching this from the safety of modern plumbing, you can almost laugh at the absurdity. Jesse James, legend of the West, picking straw out of his hair, yanking at his shirt for fleas, muttering about what Hollywood would never show. Privacy? Try picking the corner of the barn that seems least likely to roll into during the night. Hygiene is a fantasy. The best he can do is scrape mud off with a knife. Maybe splash some trough water if it isn't frozen solid. But the real torture isn't just the dirt and the cold. It's the waiting, the suspicion. Every new hiding place means recalculating. Is this farmhouse actually safe? Does this family hate the Yankees, or do they hate the reward on your head a little more? Sometimes Jesse would sleep fully dressed, boots on, revolver inches away, one eye open, because the sound that wakes you could be a friend, or it could be the last thing you ever hear. And every time he tries to drift off, the barn becomes a minefield of threats, the creak overhead, settling wood, or a lawman's footstep. The horse in the next stall, just a snort, or is someone out there whispering your name? The wind howls through the cracks, and every outlaw hears his own death sentence in it. Even sleep, when it comes, is shallow, haunted by nightmares, body tense to run, to fight, or just to survive another hour. The longer Jesse ran, the worse it got. Fewer friends, fewer barns where the door didn't lock behind you. Money couldn't buy loyalty, only a pause in the chase. And Jesse's body kept breaking down. Years of wounds, infections, hard riding, every nerve raw, every dawn colder, every hope fainter. So if you're still picturing Jesse James as a folk hero, here's your reality check. The real man lived out of a bedroll, wore the same filthy clothes day after day, his skin lined with dirt and his mind lined with suspicion. His world shrank to a handful of faces, and none of them were truly safe. If you wanted glamour, look elsewhere. Jesse had more lice than friends, and the only thing he could count on was pain and the cold comfort of that revolver. And it wasn't just physical misery, it was paranoia. The deeper Jesse's wounds, the more desperate his hiding, the more he suspected everyone. Hollywood loves the scene where the outlaw is surrounded by loyal friends and a glowing campfire. Jesse's sunset was just a long, anxious wait for sleep that never really came, always wondering if the hand that fed him would be the one that turned him in. Sleep, if it came at all, was a trap. The worst nights, he'd lie still in a hayloft or a dark shack, listening to the wind rattle loose boards, trying to tell if that sound was a rat or the first stealthy step of a bounty hunter. His body was so used to pain, the ache in his chest and shoulder, old, never-healed bullet wounds, just background noise, competing with the itch of lice and the sting of straw. He'd wake with a start, clutching his revolver, heart hammering, sure he'd heard a door latch or boots in the dark. Sometimes it was nothing. Sometimes it wasn't. That's the real part Hollywood scrubs away. Jesse James wasn't just being hunted from the outside. He was being chewed up from within, by exhaustion, by suspicion, by the knowledge that even longtime supporters might sell him out if the price was right. The legend draws a crowd, but as the years drag on, the doors close faster, the food gets scarcer, and even a dirty bed becomes a negotiation. And physically, Jesse's clothes, one set for weeks at a time, got so stiff with grime and old blood they could just about stand up on their own. Bathing was a risk. Someone might spot you at a creek and run straight for the sheriff. Scraping away the dirt was as futile as bailing out a sinking boat. The lice stayed. The food, when it came, was cold, greasy, sometimes moldy. You don't get gourmet outlaw meals, just survival rations and the worry that even a decent meal might be your last. All this took a toll. Wounds never healed, lungs rattled at night, a souvenir from that war bullet, a little time bomb in his chest. Infection was always lurking. You could pour whiskey on it, or pack a wound with lard and herbs. But medicine was a joke. Most wounds just became part of you, or killed you slow. By the end, Jesse James was a man marked as much by dread as by dirt. His world shrank, not just in numbers, but in trust. Even family wasn't immune from suspicion. And in the end, it wasn't a lawman's bullet that got him. It was an old associate who wanted the reward, someone Jesse let near him because, well, even outlaws get tired. That's the brutal irony. The most famous outlaw in America, not shot down in a blaze of glory, but undone by years of hiding, filth, paranoia, and finally, the complete collapse of trust. The movies might give you a clean shirt and a ride into the sunset. The real Jesse faded into darkness, cold, filthy, and so isolated that even his last goodnight could have been a death sentence. So next time you see the Hollywood version, clean hero, loyal sidekick, grand exit, remember what's missing: the dirt under the nails, the lice under the shirt, the twitch of a sleepless man, and that haunted look, someone who knows the real danger isn't just outside the door. That's what outlaw survival meant. That's what Jesse James really carried to the end. If you want more of these unvarnished stories from American outlaw history, more grime, fewer tall tales, stick around and subscribe. Let us know in the comments which legend you want us to drag through the dirt next, because the West wasn't heroic for most people. It was a mess, and it still has secrets worth digging up.